So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my heartfelt pleasure and honor to welcome Lorraine Warren.
Good evening, everyone. Hello. I can't even begin to tell you what pleasure I get from being here this evening. It is really an honor. What a friendly group of people. My God, you're wonderful. I'd like to take you home with me. Our work, Ed and myself, has entailed numerous investigations. Ed grew up in a home that was horribly haunted. There were never answers for why it was so haunted, why the clergy were there so many times. But there was never, ever closure. When Ed got out of the military, we were married during the war. Ed became a war hero when his ship went down in the North Atlantic, and he was one of only just a very few men. I think there were 60 of them that survived where the two ships collided in February that year in the North Atlantic during wartime conditions. He never ever got over that. He never got over the screams of the people. And he saved the life of one man, and as a result of it, became a war hero. We were married on survivor's leave. Ed never talked in the early years about the things that occurred in that house. We didn't talk about them. When he came home from service, our daughter had already been born. In fact, Judy was born when Ed was in Japan. Before Ed passed away, we had returned to Japan. We had returned to the same area where Ed, as a naval gunner who was stationed in Nagoya, Japan, there was no naval base, but he lived with MacArthur's army. It was really very emotional for him to return to this area. They took us to right where he had his office and port directors and all. He stood with me. It was an emotional thing. I wanted to look out at the Pacific as he could see it. I wanted to stand where he stood when he was told that our daughter was born. And as we did, it was just the most beautiful thing. But Ed collapsed soon after we came home. He collapsed, and he was given 24 hours to live. It was an unbearable thing for me and our family to go through. But I decided that although he was a full care patient and really was never going to really come back to the boy that he was, the man that he was, I brought him home and took care of him. It's the most beautiful thing you can ever do for someone you love. When he passed, I thought, how can I think of myself as someone who could take on that responsibility of being involved in this area of work, of doing the investigations, of doing the lectures at the universities. How could I possibly think that I could take that on? I know that our son-in-law, Tony Spira, who works with me and is with me tonight, has worked with us for well over 25 years. But to take on a responsibility like that was really overwhelming to me. But I felt if it was meant to be, I was going to know. And what happened was beautiful. It was 13 days after Ed passed. I was on the back deck of our home. I could look across, and our land then drops where the gazebo is, and on the other side is the reservoir and a mountain. I could see the leaves beginning to change on the trees. And I said, honey, wherever you are, I hope you can see these leaves changing. I know how you loved the fall of the year. And with this, the phone rang. And I picked up, I had the phone next to me on the table, and it was a man by the name of Teddy Tannenbaum who had written a script on our life for Warner Brothers. He was very emotional and said to me, this is always the hardest thing when I go to tell this. He said, for a man who was so brilliant where his work was concerned, he had such a sense of humor. I said something back to him that was in no way related to what he said to me. I said, Teddy, I always knew when Ed was at peace and Ed was happy if I heard him whistle. And he got very emotional, and we closed that conversation. The next morning was Ed's birthday. He died just 2 weeks before his birthday. I went to Mass and Communion for him, and then went over to his graveside. The monument wasn't there yet. And I said to him, honey, I know what we'd be doing if you were here today. You would wake up first, always, and you would say to me, get up, get dressed, we're going to our favorite place for breakfast, and it's my tree. And it's the Bluebird on Route 58 in Easton, Connecticut. So with that, I said, honey, we're going there today, and it's my tree. I went to the Bluebird. When I got there was a new little waitress. I spoke with her and asked for a particular table that we always use. And I gave my order, but I said, it's only me eating. If my husband were here, this is where we'd be celebrating his breakfast on his birthday. She said, oh my God, how sad. A woman came out, one of the owners, and said, are you Mrs. Warren? I said, yes. And she said, we have a problem here. I said, I never knew of any problems here all the time we've been coming, but I did not know her. And so she said to me, the dishwasher, that's how it started. The dishwasher, she said, he came in early this morning. I says, how early? She says, 5 o'clock. And she said, he phoned me and told me he was terrified and he was going home. And I told him not to go home. I told him to take the phone and go into the dining rooms, the 2 dining rooms. And I said, look out the window. Do you see anything? Do you hear anything? I said, what did he see and what did he hear? She said, he claimed to hear a man whistling. So with this, I said, could I please speak to him? I can read your aura. That is really one of the reasons I do so much where the police work is concerned, because I can always tell if someone is lying to me or telling fibs or not telling the truths. So he sat across from me